Welcome. I'm Shannon from the Spiritualist.com. I'm a certified astrologer, tarot reader, and mindset coach, and I help you bridge the gap between mysticism and manifestation. And I am so excited to be here for this very first episode on YouTube. I have been wanting to do this for so long, and I'm actually feeling really proud of myself right now for getting up and recording in front of a camera and just coming on here and speaking about all of the things that I'm extremely passionate about. And I'm really excited to have anybody who watches this video and find some value in it, and hopefully it helps you in your life. This first episode, I really want to talk about Pluto and Aquarius, because Pluto is Plutoing right now. And if you don't know what that means, or if you are someone who is a little averse to the news and sort of watching what's going on in the world right now, probably you're Pisces rising. If that's the case, maybe this episode isn't for you, but stick around because I'm going to be doing more episodes around things that you may find very interesting. But this episode is really to talk about all of the social and political changes that are going on right now, and Pluto's role in that, and what your role in that could be. So if you are completely new to astrology, I should add that I am a traditional and modern astrologer. I have been trained in both, and I actually practice both in my practice in my business. When I do readings for people, I do it from the lens of both. I will do a completely different video if you're completely new to astrology. Even though there's tons of content out there about traditional versus modern astrology, I still feel like there's a little more that could be added, and of course I want to kind of add my opinion to that as well. But I'll do another video just to educate you guys on what is the difference between traditional and modern astrology, and my opinions about why you really need to be using both. But today I'm really going to be talking more about how important Pluto is in just change and transformation. And I'm really not going to be talking as much from the traditional viewpoint, because Pluto is not one of the planets that is really considered as part of traditional astrology. It is a modern planet, and it still holds a lot of weight. A lot of change comes with it. So I do think that it's worth always talking about any of the planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which we call the outer planets, and how important they are both globally and personally. So Pluto is a planet of transformation, power, and change, and rebirth. Very heavy things. It's what we call a karmic planet. A lot of people who have very heavy Scorpio, which in a modern astrology, Pluto is ruled by Scorpio. So if you have a heavy Scorpio placements in your chart, and if you have a lot of planets that are conjunct Pluto in your chart, you probably have experienced a lot of karmic ties and karmic things that you may feel are going on in your personal life. It is also a planet of generation. It's a generational planet. The outer planets, Saturn and Jupiter, Jupiter through Pluto, move so slowly that their effect psychologically, from a modern perspective, are very generational. We feel the effects. That's why all millennials seemingly are very Scorpio traded, and have a lot of social justice and advocacy, and kind of like no BS people, because they are the generation of Pluto in Scorpio. And then we have, the boomers who had Pluto in Leo during their time. And so they are the ones who did very Leo things, building up structures that made them very wealthy, and maintaining those structures, really. You've had like Gen X, who have been really the Pluto in Virgo. When Pluto is in Virgo, these traits for Gen Xers are that they really just kind of keep their heads down and work. And they really were not the ones rocking the boat for social change. It's not until recently that Pluto has moved into, or that Pluto was in Scorpio, Pluto in Sagittarius for our Gen Zers, that we are starting to see a lot of people sort of rising up against these structures that have been put in place by all the generations that have come before us. So Pluto, a planet that is already extremely sensitive to change and transformation, when it transits into Aquarius, and that is meaning when the planet moves into Aquarius, it has a tendency to act in very Aquarian ways. So Aquarius in modern astrology ruled by Uranus, in traditional astrology ruled by Saturn. Has a lot to do with social change, particularly social change, particularly breaking away from dogma, conventionalism. A lot of us conditioned in our lifetimes, we are seeing again for the second time in history in the last 200, 300 years, breakaway from the church. We are starting to see a lot of millennials leaving the church, leaving these sort of structures, these familiar structures and conditioning that they have been brought up in. We are starting to see just now in the last couple of months, the global class consciousness, disparity, very Uranian things happening where people are pulling away. We're seeing the rise of AI and technology in ways that we never really could have imagined. I don't think that a lot of people really considered what the effect of AI was going to be long term on the world, but we are starting to see that now. We're also starting to see a bit of a rise again against class consciousness and the wealth gap, and people starting to speak up. Even just this week, the kind of fall of TikTok and people in America, TikTok being banned in America, and for the first time ever in very strange ways, the leading of a sort of movement against political figures and structures that have been held up in the United States of America for quite some time. And we are seeing these things in a very real and strange and kind of fascinating way repeat themselves from what we saw in the 1700s, the mid to late 1700s, the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius. So the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius, we've kind of started the same way in such a fascinating way. We are seeing the same thing happening with these sort of grassroots movements and these safe spaces for people to be talking about politics and religion and art and music. We saw the rise of creativity during that time, the changing of classical music, and how that had such a huge impact on the world, and salons where people could go and talk about politics. We saw the rise of, the impact that the Renaissance actually had in Europe at that time, and the growth of America and wanting to stand up against the monarchy, the British monarchy, which America was ruled under. And it's kind of interesting at the time to see how this is repeating itself again. Even just today, in the last couple of hours, with the ban on TikTok, and then the UK and Australia and Canada coming out of the woodwork being like, Americans, and then Americans coming back. It's been very interesting to see history really repeating itself in these kind of very interesting ways. And at the same time, we also saw during that time the French Revolution. So we saw the rise and fall of a monarchy during that time, and the wealth gap becoming so intense and so disparaged that people were willing to quite literally cut off the heads of their rulers. I don't think that we're going to go that far in this time around, but it is really interesting to see, since Pluto has officially moved into Aquarius in the last 6 weeks, we have seen not the fall of governments at all. Not the government in France is still operational, but it's not functioning right now. Same thing in Germany. It's operational, but not functioning. Justin Trudeau has stepped down in Canada. We are seeing they have arrested the prime minister, or the president, in South Korea for instituting martial law without the people's say. So we are seeing some very, very interesting things that are happening right now since Pluto has moved into Aquarius. But what does that mean for you? What is your role in all of this? Because I do think each sign, where Pluto was put in your chart, your natal chart, you have a very different role to play. But also, depending on what generation you are in, how that might play out. So let's talk about that just a little bit more. And hopefully you get some really good insight from this and know, where you should be standing in this, because not everybody has these standout roles march in the streets to play in this, but your role is still very important. So I thought I would first start by breaking this down, checking my microphone, breaking this down by generation first, and then moving into the signs. If you want to, you can skip forward to whatever your sign is, your sun, moon, or rising sign may be, and see what your impact may be and what your role is to play in all of this. But I wanted to first talk about generational, because regardless of sign, each generation is going to handle the changes of Pluto and Aquarius differently. So boomers who were born with the generation of Pluto and Leo, let's start there, have been just very interesting because they are the ones who have profited the most from these socioeconomic structures that have been built. And they are also simultaneously still alive enough to be feeling the consequences of it and needing to learn how to adapt into this very quickly technologically advancing society. And they are also standing back and seeing what the consequences of their actions have been. Or are there now, the consequences of their actions are very much now starting to come into fruition. At the same time, many are unwilling to admit the role that they had either actively or passively in creating these structures and therefore these consequences. So the call to action for boomers who were born again with Pluto in Leo. Leo is a sign of leadership and really a sign of innovation in and of itself, but really more of a self-serving standpoint. So the call to action for Pluto and Leo generation of boomers is learning how to balance the leadership roles that you have built up and also learning how to embrace innovation and community-focused mindset. We're moving away from the self-serving, self-centeredness of Leo and really calling to action for boomers to move towards the community-focused mindset and to look at the impact that you are going to be having on the world. For Gen Xers, this is Pluto in Virgo. Virgos are very interesting because Virgo energy really has a way of being community-focused, but doing it from a sense of how will this community benefit me in the end. So we are learning as Virgos, Pluto and Virgo, Gen X people, how to innovate practical systems, how to take your practicality, because there is nothing more practical, I think, than Gen Xers. They're very, if you speak to most Gen Xers, very calm, cool, collected, practical people with the Pluto and Virgo. And you are here to help improve technology and to learn how to benefit humanity through practicality. You guys should be the ones saying, just build a third bathroom. What's the problem? That's the Pluto and Virgo generation. So we need to see more of that kind of stepping up to that plate and taking that role. Millennials, Pluto and Scorpio, the Pluto and Scorpio generation, our generation is really all about, we are the ones that are here to push you off the cliff. So in tarot, the first card in the major arcana is the Fool. The Fool willingly steps off the cliff to take the journey, but sometimes the Fool needs to be pushed. Whether they're not prepared, whether they are scared, whether they do not believe that they can have an impact or they can make a change. That's where Pluto in Scorpio, comes up. Pluto in Scorpio is here to push transformational and push emotional and psychological change, and to really look at power structures and say, this is not working. And to also, through a very Scorpio type way, foster community and community healing. So we are seeing a lot of this. Is probably the first generation. The millennial generation is the first generation to really, really be embracing mental health care. And that's a very Pluto and Scorpio thing, transforming the landscapes and actually speaking about these things on social media and in their private lives. And we are also in a very Scorpio way. We are the first generation to be breaking generational curses and karmic ties within our family structures. Gen Z then comes around to actually reimagine belief systems and to rebuild up structures that are more equitable for everybody. Born with Pluto and Sagittarius, they are the higher thinkers, the higher learners from a modern perspective. Modern perspective, Sagittarius ruling the ninth house. Where Sagittarius sits in the ninth house, looking at really how we can elevate ourselves to a higher level long term. This is different from just learning from a Gemini perspective, which sits on the opposite side of the zodiac. Geminis are about short-term information gathering and then regurgitating that out, whereas the Sagittarius energy is more about long-term, higher learning and thinking and how we can implement these new belief systems from a transformational standpoint. And then Gen Alpha, these little babies coming up, you're already seeing them, just how equitable they are. Pluto in Capricorn is really about equitability. These are the children that are going to see fairness. Nothing will bother a Capricorn more than a lack of fairness. And so Pluto in Capricorn, Gen Alphas will come in once Pluto and Scorpio Gen Zers have witnessed these structures and torn them down. Gen Alpha will come in and they will reimagine. Gen Zers will come in and they will reimagine new belief systems and higher learning and innovation in different ways. And then Gen Alpha will come in and say, great, so how can we make this fair for everyone? So we really are building a new system. So that's where we're looking at things from a generational standpoint. But now let's talk about how, depending on your sign, you may implement this. All right, so let's break this down by sign now. Depending on if you have your sun, moon, or rising in any of these signs, it could be that you have all three in one sign, which is a lot, kind of rare, but does happen. You could really be feeling this energy in one sign and what you feel called to do the most from a perspective of how that sign normally would react. Or if you have your sun, moon, and rising in all different signs, you could be called to kind of take this perspective from all three of those, or to act from the perspective of all three of how those signs normally would act. Everything begins and ends with the natal chart. So if you have not pulled your natal chart, or if you would like a natal chart reading, of course, you can click the link below this video to get your natal chart read, and then you will know a little bit more about which direction you should be going in during this really crazy time right now with Pluto and Aquarius. So let's get started with Aries. Aries is here to learn how to focus on networking and building collaborative relationships, but not by bulldozing their way in, which Aries have a tendency to do. So if you're sun, moon, rising, Aries are natural born leaders, but they're also natural born autocrats. So they're really big about, pushing their way because it is out of control. They feel a need to kind of control the situation. A little bit different from Virgos. It's more like they need to be the ones in charge and spearheading. But this is a time for you to learn how to lead collaboratively and how to innovate collaboratively and to depend on the other people within the zodiac to get things done. If you are a Taurus, you are here to learn how to help others actually adapt to their career paths and their financial ambitions, and aligning basically their career ambitions and professional ambitions. No one adapts better to corporate America, corporate UK, corporate whatever than Tauruses and Libras, both ruled by Venus in both traditional and modern astrology. You guys do really well in a corporate setting, and with the corporate landscape changing so quickly, depending on the powers that be that are in rule, you guys are learning how to not only yourselves deal with and be flexible in the corporate environment, but teaching other people who are coming up behind you. So learning how to be a mentor to Gen Zers who are coming up in the workforce and really struggling with their need to push social change, and how to actually adapt that safely into a corporate environment so that they can keep a roof over their heads and keep doing the work that they need to be doing. And Geminis, now is like the perfect time for you to take all of that knowledge that you have been accumulating, as Geminis like to do. I'd like to call Geminis sort of the library of the Zodiac. You love to accumulate knowledge and learn things that are actually going to be really important for other people. And but you have a tendency to hoard that information. Really great at trivia, Gemini people. But your whole thing is taking that and now learning how to share it widely and broadly in order to assist the greater population and assist the community. So if you are sun, moon, or rising in Gemini, particularly if you are a Gemini rising and Mercury is your chart ruler, then you absolutely need to learn how to take a lot of the information that you have accumulated in your lifetime and learn how to share it with people through teaching and through forming global connections. So interesting things for Gemini risings maybe to be doing is getting into podcasting, getting into YouTube, whatever your passions are and however they can help the community, the greater global community, sustainably. So if you are a Cancer and you are just a walking ball of emotions right now who feels like they are feeling everything, both emotionally and physically, now is the time for you to learn how to embrace emotional change and transformation in particular during this time over the next 20 years. Usually ruled by the moon, Cancer people are ruled by their emotions. But now is a time to learn how to essentially take what you were feeling emotionally and teach others how to channel that emotion, that emotional state through something productive that can help humanity and that can heal people on a personal and global level. So learning how to channel your emotions and teaching others is the biggest thing for Cancer people ruled by the moon. It's very cyclical. So learning how to get yourself on some sort of cycle with the moon is going to be very imperative for Cancer ruled people right now. Okay, Leos, for a very long time, you have had to focus on yourself in relationships. What we mean by this is in order to protect yourselves in relationships, which you have thought for a very long time from the traumas that you have sustained in your life, have had to sort of come at relationships from a very selfish standpoint. I hate saying it. I know you don't want to hear it, but this is just the truth. Stick with me here. Now it is the time for you to learn how to bring some balance back into your relationships and to learn how to be an equitable partner. And I am not just talking about relationships that you may have romantic wise. We are talking about all relationships in your life, including especially if you are a leader in business in some way, which Leos do have a tendency to be leaders in business and politics and very high up social structures. You have really got to learn how to be equitable with the people around you and learn how to give as much as you take. All right, Virgos, you neurotic nut jobs. I love you. Virgos, particularly Virgo risings, are going to need to learn how to create systems, very important systems that are having to do with your health, your mental health, and the routines that you have in your life. Where I think a lot of people would say, oh no, Virgos have things together with routines. When I'm talking about this, I'm really talking to Virgo risings. You are having the opposition from the sixth house right now. If you have your Virgo rising sitting on your first house, and the sixth house is where Pluto in Aquarius is transiting. Pluto in Aquarius in that time is transiting in your areas of health and wellness in a lot of ways, and routines and structures in your life. And so because there's this opposition, there can feel a bit of feeling a little imbalanced, like you're being pulled in too many directions and you are having a hard time sort of getting your feet under you. So if you are Virgo rising, it is very important during this time for you to set structures and routines in your life and to take care of your health and your mental health more than anything. So everything else aside, this is one of those interesting times, or one of the interesting ones, saying that your personal health and wellness and mental health is what is going to have a big impact on society. So taking care of yourself is going to be crucial at this time. Okay, Libras also are other sign ruled by Venus, both in modern and traditional astrology, but from a different angle. So Venus ruled Taurus likes nice things. Venus ruled Libra likes to be nice. So you have to be liked. You need people to like you. You hate drama in your life. Usually the lives of the party are Libras, but, hanging out with Sagittarius, Libras and Sagittarius get along very well. They are the ones who want harmony and peace and balance in their lives and in their loved ones' lives and in the people around them. So what you are doing during this time is bringing that harmony, particularly through encouraging people to embrace their creativity and to find joy in their lives. You are going to be epicenters for helping others manifest abundance. And you, by showing the abundance that you have manifested in your life, simply from being happy and grateful for the things that you have. Scorpios, sun, moon, rising, and millennials who have Pluto in Scorpio, and we all feel this energy. At some point in time over the last several years, Scorpio ruled people have been going through very difficult times in their relationships and in the home. And I mean like personal, family, home, marriage in particular. Marriage and family have been very difficult. And so the call to action for Scorpios right now is learning how to transform the family, home, and dynamic. And for many of us, many Scorpio ruled people, it is going to be about leaving the homes and the structures that we have built, and learning how to embrace emotional healing through other found family structures. So this is going to be a very difficult emotional time, I think, for Scorpios, but I feel like life is emotionally very difficult for Scorpios in general. But right now, over the next 20 years, it's really going to be the focus on Scorpio-ruled people looking at their home structures and their family and their value systems and where they have been and where they want to be in the next 20 years. Sagittarius, sun, moon, rising, Sagittarius. This is about sharing your knowledge, your belief systems, and the things that you have learned over the last years, boldly. It's a very different energy. Well, similar but different energy from Geminis, where Geminis, they're going to share it anyway. They're going to do it in a gregarious manner. They're going to be happy to share. Sagittarius, you are going to have to work up the courage to share. So, starting that YouTube channel, starting that podcast, starting the way that you're going to get that energy out there, social media, and doing it boldly and unapologetically, building up the courage to do it. Because I think in this lifetime, a lot of Sagittarius have, again, grown up in these social structures and felt extremely, controlled, felt sort of that they couldn't be themselves. And now is the time to be yourself, to put that information out there, to share with people, and to do it in a very strong and bold manner. Capricorns. Nobody is going through it quite like Capricorns are going through it right now. If you know a Capricorn in your life, hug them with their permission, because Capricorns really hate being touched. They really hate being touched. So if you know a Capricorn, be empathetic towards them. Pluto has just left their sign after a very long time in Capricorn, 20 some odd years. And their life has been ruled by a lot of change and transformation that Pluto brought there, and particularly building up a lot of structures. And I have also found that a lot of Capricorns in human design are 6-2 profiles. So I feel like a lot of them at this age, especially millennials and Gen X Capricorns, are really dealing with what we call in human design coming down off the roof. And so they're entering into this stage where they are being called literally into their life that they are supposed to be leading from here on out, like the leadership roles that they are supposed to step in the community, leaving their jobs that they have had for a really long time, and doing a lot of seemingly would be maybe fun things for a Sagittarius, but really scary things for Capricorns, because no one likes comfort and stability other than a Taurus, because they just like their stuff. No one likes comfort and stability more than a Capricorn, meaning having the same things around them, their homes, their jobs, getting a steady paycheck, knowing in particular that they can take care of themselves independently is very important for Capricorn people, Capricorn ruled people. And so right now is what we would call in this time a timeline shift, from a spiritually metaphysical woo-woo place. We would call it a timeline shift that Capricorns are going through, and it is feeling very uncomfortable for them. So the thing that can make things easier, I think, for Capricorns and what they are called to do now that Pluto has moved out of their native sign and into Aquarius, is that they have got to learn how to rewire their brains around resources and wealth and the things that they need to be comfortable. This is a great time for Capricorns to be having conversations with their loved ones around what their values are and what they actually need to survive and to live, in order to give them the room to step into the roles that they are supposed to be leading, or the roles they're supposed to be taking now going forward for the next 20 years. So really looking at their resources, looking at the wealth that they have accumulated and what they want to do with that, and the role that they now want to play in the community is really going to be important for Capricorns during this next 20 years of Pluto in Aquarius. All right, Aquarius. Oh, heavy is the head that lies the crown is the situation with Aquarius. No one has been called more than Aquarius to step to the front and to lead all of this change, particularly Aquarius rising people. I'll do another video about kind of the difference between why I talk a lot about the rising sign and why it's more important. I think there's a few circulating around on TikTok, social media right now, but I will add my own thoughts to the spin of this, but or to the conversation. But Aquarius rising people are feeling this pull for social change. You're not going to see anybody more on the forefronts holding a picket sign or phone banking. I know a couple of Aquarius risings who did that during this last election, really getting up and speaking and having really difficult conversations with the people around them as they look at the world and say, no, guys, something is not right here. So you are learning how to do this from the perspective of being a visionary and embracing your own personal transformation and the global impact that you have been brought here to facilitate or to have. But you are learning how to do this in a safe manner, in a safe space for yourself mentally, because Aquarius can have a tendency to toe the line between genius and madness when they are not in their best states, when they're in their shadow states particularly, there can be a tendency for them to go to the extreme from whatever belief system that they have. It doesn't matter what it is, really doesn't matter what it is. Aquarius people can be driven to extremes when they are not kind of taking their time and when they are not taking care of their own mental health. So it's really important for Aquarius ruled people to be the leaders of change and visionary, but remember that you've had a lot heaped on you during this lifetime and that you are needing to really take care of yourself and to manage your self-care. All right, Pisces. The big call to action for Pisces during this karmic cycle is really about focusing on your own spiritual growth and finding new systems for expressing your spirituality. No one more than Pisces rising, I would say, is prone to hyper normalization, meaning if everybody else is acting good, you're going to act good too, when really on the inside, you're dying. You're really, really struggling emotionally with everything that is happening in the world and the way that this world is, the direction that this world is going in. So you as a Pisces rising person are learning how to sort of allow yourself to explore other forms of spirituality rather than sort of falling back on these same systems and structures of spirituality that you've always had, particularly religion. Pisces ruled people can have a tendency to really fall back on spiritual structures that they've grown up in as a child. And because they have a really hard time with their voice and expressing themselves and what they need, and also needing to have sort of this family structure around to support them emotionally, can have a tendency to just stick with those structures even though they're no longer serving them. So this is about giving yourself the space to explore those other spiritual things that you may find interesting in your life and surrounding yourself by those people who are going to be okay with you exploring those things. Okay, biggest tips for everyone. We are in a fast moving time for social change and innovation and technology, and learning how to embrace that rather than trying to swim upstream will make this transition in these next 20 years a lot easier for many of us. But also learning how to prioritize collaboration and community efforts, coming together and looking at and learning how to have better conversations, learning how to talk with each other rather than going into, your respective corners is also going to be very important during this time. And learning how to cultivate adaptability and a forward-thinking mindset. We're all in for this ride on this crazy floating rock. So learning how to say like, hey, this is a lot of changes going on right now, and we just have to learn how to adapt to it and to move forward with it and to pick our fellow man up and assist and to help. So I am encouraging you guys to reflect on what your role might be with this as you watch through this video. I hope you come back for more so we can talk about a lot of these things. And if you have your sun, moon, and rising, please comment in the section below kind of to let me know how you are dealing with this time and how you like your own insights about what's going on right now. And I do invite you guys, if you would like to do a tarot reading that is specific to anything that you're feeling right now, to click the link in my bio, or if you'd like click the link below this video. If you'd like a specific reading, or if you'd like a more personalized natal chart reading, because everything begins and ends with the natal chart, and I can give you more insight into your own transformational journey throughout this whole process. So come back for more. I'm so excited. This is my first video, so hope you guys liked it.